Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dawn, and this channel is Dawn Does Keto. This channel is all about my accountability and my personal journey on the ketogenic diet. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, Mike and I do a segment called Dinner with Dawn. And we are reading a book right now called The Case Against Sugar by Gary Taubes, which we are actually getting ready to wrap up soon. So I thought we might finish next week. No, I think Thursday is going to be our last episode. So we will finish up chapter 11 tonight after dinner, and Thursday we'll do the epilogue, and then that will be it. So we are
then there's a test, big test. And if you don't pass, you don't get to come back for the next one.
I will fail because it is so much information. There's no way. So we're just going to show you very quickly what we're having for dinner. We're just doing burgers with fried eggs. I have some jalapenos and some spicy guacamole on mine.
And I'm having a side salad.
Yeah, Mike's having a salad. I'm not doing the salad. Mike also has cheese on his. I'm not having cheese because I told you guys after last weekend, I think I need to cut back on my cheese a little bit.
She needs to cut the cheese. She just said she needs to cut.
I said I need to cut back on the cheese.
But it's funnier when you just say you need to cut the cheese. So before I even take a bite of food, because I know as soon as I put something in my mouth, Dawn's going to say, hey, what did you have for lunch today, Mike? So I'm going to tell you now before I stuff my face.
I'm going to stuff my face.
So yesterday I had hamburgers. We had leftover hamburgers from when we went camping on the weekend. And so I took those to work yesterday and had those for lunch. And I did that because I have found that when I eat an actual food item for lunch and not just, pork rinds or a cheese stick or two, I feel much better. Not only during the day, but then when I come home to eat dinner, I feel better eating dinner then too. So I ate the hamburgers yesterday. So we're having hamburgers again today. So I've had hamburgers like 7 or 8 days in a row now.
It hasn't been that many. Don't exaggerate.
But anyway, so I didn't have anything for lunch today per se as far as what I took to work. I did take some pork rinds, which I did not eat, and I did take a beef stick and a cheese stick and one of our keto snacks that we have. So I was content with that because I do that quite often. However, the company that I work for, and I know none of you know who that is, but anyway, so we had a record-setting month last month, and the company decided to bring in a food truck today for everybody because of that. You guys pretty much know me by now, right? There's no secrets. We're on a very personal level here. If I go out to dinner, or if dinner comes to me, chances are I'm not going to stay on plan, and I did not. So I'm just letting you know up front that my lunch was not on plan. I didn't overeat or anything because it was a limited quantity. It was a one-shot deal, and it wasn't a huge serving of
portion.
Each. Huge portion, right? But I did eat that stuff. So now we're back to eating what we're supposed to eat. I will continue to do that because all last week, with the exception of Monday when we went out to dinner, and over the weekend with camping, I stayed on plan and I feel a million times better, and it showed up in the scale. I mean, for me, it works very well. So it's a one-time thing, my keto flexible side, I like to show that side every once in a while. So there you are.
Every once in a while?
Well, if you wouldn't make me go out to dinner all the time.
I'm also using some smoked salt, Redmond Real Salt smoked salt on my burgers today. In case you guys don't know, Mike and I are affiliates with Redmond, and if you use Redmond, we would greatly appreciate you using our link that's down in the description because that helps out our channel. Or if you just are interested and you would like to try Redmond, you can use that link. So just wanted to share that real quick because it's honestly just the best salt there is.
It is. It's fantastic. We use it on everything that we have now.
You wouldn't think a different kind of salt could make that big of a difference, but it really does.
Well, and I think there's another thing about that too. So I don't disagree with you on that, but I also think it's just because of our diet now, because the way we eat, salt has become a much bigger part of our diet, and we like it, and
having a good quality salt just
makes it even better.
Yeah. So I had a fat coffee today. I had my electrolytes, of course. Over the camping weekend, I had made Mike and I each 2 keto chow shakes. One of the ones I had, which I drank over the weekend, was guava grapefruit. And that's one of the new seasonal flavors. Oh my gosh, you guys, I didn't get a chance to really say too much about that, but that is like summer in a drink. If you haven't tried the guava grapefruit, I highly recommend you give that a shot. But the other shake that I had made for myself was just a salted caramel, and I had that in the fridge, so I took that today for lunch.
It's funny you mention that because and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be very transparent here. I almost took that to work today.
Oh, I would have hurt you.
I almost did. I thought, you know what? It's been in here for a couple of days. She didn't drink it over the weekend. I don't have anything for lunch, and that would be the perfect lunch for me because I need to stay on track. And my wife supports that.
You would have taken my shake and then eaten off plan, and I would have been without anything.
My wife supports me in my journey, and she would be all for that. And now you guys see the truth. She would have knocked me out.
I would have.
I did think about it, but I knew better. Because I thought about you. I wanted you to have a healthy, delicious lunch. Because I care about you.
I can't leave anything sit for a day or two, or he steals it. He thinks, oh, she's not going to have this. But speaking of Keto Chow, I also wanted to mention, because I read somebody commented this online. If you don't know, the pecan sticky bun is back in stock. It's listed as a seasonal flavor, and I think it had been out of stock for a while. Those make great chaffles, by the way, waffles. But I think that those are back in stock, so I just wanted to share that with you guys if you are a fan of pecan sticky bun. I don't know how long it's going to be in stock, but you might want to check that out as well. If you click through our link down below, you will get 10% off your Keto Chow purchase. Again, that helps out our channel. I had someone send me a message on today's video that the code Dawn Does Keto doesn't work. Don't go in and try to type in a code. Actually click through the link. The only way we get credit for it is if you click through the link, and it will automatically give you the 10% off. So just wanted to share that since somebody did mention that they weren't able to use that code.
How's your burger?
It's delicious.
Is it cooked correctly?
Yep. It's perfect.
So Dawn, what was it that you were going to say? I couldn't hear you. There's too much chewing going on.
Stab you with this fork. Something else I wanted to mention before we start talking about today's chapter in our book. The video that came out today, obviously, where I talk about, my weight being up this week and that being a discouragement for me. Mm-hmm. I just want to thank everyone for your kind comments and just helping to make me feel better and reminding me that the scale lies and that it's how I feel that.
Don't say that about the scale. Because if it lies for you, it means it lies for me.
It does. It lies for everyone.
Are you saying I didn't lose the weight I said I lost?
It was probably water weight from something. 4.2 pounds, that's a lot. Anyway, everyone's been very uplifting, very encouraging about the fact that, I should be focusing more on how I feel and not the scale.
Overall health. Yeah.
I do use the scale as a tool because I know that if I wasn't weighing in, I would eat off plan more often. Mm-hmm. And I would splurge more and indulge more knowing I didn't have to face the scale. So doing these videos and knowing that I do have to weigh in, even though, I don't want to take too much stock in what the scale actually says, it keeps me on track.
Yeah, it's like checks and balances, really. And that's what it's doing for you. And it does it for me, too. I agree with you. It's how we feel. We've talked about this before. It's how we feel that matters most. I think the number it helps us justify the effort that we're putting into this and the hard work. I think it just gives us something tangible because we all want something that we can look at. And I think that's
like I said, it just knowing I have to get on the scale helps keep me from going too far off the rails. Over this past weekend, if I had, not had to do a video or wasn't planning on weighing myself, I would have indulged in way more food. I would have eaten more snacks. They did s'mores around the fire. I maybe would have had one of those. And I didn't because I knew that I had to weigh in. So for me, it is just a tool. And I'm trying very hard to not take it, though, at face value when it doesn't say what I want it to. That being said, Johnny G.
My boy Johnny. Who's Johnny? Oh, is that a copyright infringement?
No, I don't think so. Not if you're singing it.
Right. Hey, wait a minute.
He suggested that we do a challenge for the month of May, so I thought I would throw this out there for anybody that's interested because I think it's a good idea and I believe that I'm going to do this. But he said for the month of May that we should do a No Way May challenge.
Oh, I like
no
that.
Way.
No way May. I like how that rhymes.
Right. And you can take that as no way, like W-A-Y.
Jose, right? No way Jose May.
Right. And actually, I think that it works out perfectly for Mike and I because we are taking our trip to Utah in May, which means weekly updates might not be easy while we're traveling. So the videos are going to probably be kind of sporadic during the month of May because of our schedules, because we also have another camping trip planned the first weekend in May. You have our trip to Utah in there. You have Memorial Weekend in there. I don't know that my videos will go up on as irregular of a schedule as they are now. And if I'm not weighing in, then I don't have to worry about posting that and making sure that goes out every Monday. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be any videos in May. It just means they won't be like regular every single Tuesday with a Monday weigh-in. We will try to fit them in wherever we can. We are planning on doing some vlogging while we're on our trips. Maybe not the first camping trip, but when we go to Utah, we're going to be vlogging because, of course, we're visiting Redmond. We're visiting Keto Chow. We're going to try to stop at the Grand Canyon. There's some other different places that we're going to stop. We are going to vlog. They just may not be weekly weigh-in videos. And we will show you how we're incorporating our keto lifestyle into traveling and staying keto while we're on the road. Because I, for sure, 100% plan on staying on plan. Well, you'll have to, because you'll be with me. He won't have any choice. He's going to have to eat what I take. But that takes a little bit of the pressure off for the month of May of trying to get those weekly videos up every Tuesday at a certain time. So I think we are going to go forward with the No Way May. And if you're interested in doing it with us, let us know.
And I think it's a good idea, not only for that, but we did that in January. And we basically did a No Way January in the same format, other than the fact that we won't be strict BBB&E. I didn't have an issue with that.
It was very hard for me.
I know for you it was, but for me it wasn't.
It's a struggle for me.
So I think I should be all right with that.
Now, eating just a regular keto-friendly diet over the course of the month, I don't expect, at the end of the month to see like big, huge results like we did doing beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. You get, a lot bigger results doing that. We're just going to be eating our regular keto-friendly diet or ketovore because I tend to stick with mostly meat and not a lot of veggies, but...
Right. But we can weigh in on May 1st, and then we won't weigh in again until we get back from our vacation, which is basically the end of May.
Yeah, we should be getting home like right around Memorial Day. So thank you, John, for that suggestion because I'm taking it to heart. We're going to do that. I just appreciate this community so much and the fact that we help each other out, even with little things like this, like, hey, Dawn, don't listen to that scale, helping each other with suggestions and different things to do and different ways to look at things is always very helpful.
And I would also like to say, thank you as well. I haven't been as interactive with the community recently just because we've got a lot going on and there's just not enough time in a day. And I try not to overwhelm myself with different things and I try to just keep it simple. I mean, that's one of the things that, I looked forward to when our kids grew up. I mean, we're basically empty nesters. I mean, our daughter, she's not home half the time and she's got things going on. So try to simplify, we raised our kids and we did all those things and it was difficult.
Well, we're also at your mom's 4 times today. So,
well, I mean, I'm just saying
that makes it a lot more difficult. And
it does.
That cuts into our time.
It cuts into our time, but it also helps me keep in perspective that I can't do everything. Unfortunately, answering some of the messages, especially the ones that are directed at me or just making general comments to you guys.
There was a message somebody asked about if you thought that, what was the name of our girl?
I don't remember. Sun something. Yeah.
Elite.
The Elite. The Elite. Sunbeam, maybe?
Yeah, the Sunbeam Elite, if it was as good as the Blackstone we had at home, and they asked you specifically, so...
Well, I can answer that now. We've only used it once. It's not broken in. My Blackstone's broken in now.
Well, and that's kind of what I said in my comment was that I feel like we didn't season it properly.
Yeah, we probably didn't, but that's okay. It'll still season, but we also won't use it as much. So it's going to take longer for that to season and for it to really get broken into where it works really, really well.
But they're both cast iron. So iron is cast iron.
Right. And it did really well. Considering the fact that it's a small little grill and it's, basically used for camping.
Was it Suburban?
Might have been.
Suburban,
Suburban, yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why I'm
but no, it's just as good. I mean, it serves its purpose. It's better than, I mean, I like cooking over an open fire, don't get me wrong, but not every campground, not every place we go is going to have a grill or have a grate that sets over the fire ring. And so if they don't have that, I mean, I don't want to fret and I don't want to cook inside if we don't have to. It keeps the mess outside. It also, the weather will be nicer. I want to be outside. So that, yeah, it worked really well. But anyway, guys, just thank you also for supporting Dawn. You know, that's the point of this channel for her. Support, accountability. Again, I can only do so much. You guys chiming in and giving her feedback. I joke around with her a lot about, you know, the weight stuff because her and I...
When do you ever joke around?
I joke around every once in a while. I know it's kind of rare. I'm very serious, you know.
Yeah.
Let me put on my serious face. But anyway, so I tend to try to keep things lighthearted, but I know that that stuff bothers you to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to let it bother you.
I know.
Because you know the facts. You know what you're doing and you know how you're living. And you know that there are some things, no matter how much you do, you can't control. You just can't.
Well, something that somebody else brought up that I hadn't even thought about was hormones. You know, I've said this before, I am going through the change, and I looked and my last cycle was March 6th. So that means I'm going on probably about 2 months since I had my last cycle, and who knows what my body is going through right now. So, you know, it could be something from that as well, and I didn't even think about that. Oh no, it hasn't been. It's been like
a month.
About
5 weeks.
Yeah, about 5 weeks. So I'm still like overdue though, but I've been all over the board. Who knows if that has something to do with it. I keep thinking it's the beginning of May already. Like I'm thinking April's over. I don't know why.
We all want warm weather to get here and be here permanently.
Maybe it's because it has been warm.
But we don't want to rush it.
Anyway, who knows what my body's doing right now because...
Yeah, you're just in a
I'm not on... You know, I was always very regular. And now I'm all over the board because of, you know, being menopausal. And unfortunately, on any given day, I have no idea what my body is doing. So it is what it is, as Autumn would say. She says that all the time. So this second part of chapter 11 was very interesting, but like the first part, it does still contain a lot of medical information, a lot of things that kind of, you know, would go over your head if you didn't know exactly what they're talking about. We just don't have the time to really dive into it and like research all the different medical aspects of it. But it really starts to talk about how sugar affects two things, one being cancer and the second being Alzheimer's.
And, you know, it's funny because when I read this section of the chapter, it starts off like it just gives you a preview of what the chapter's about. And I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about sugar and cancer. This is great. Cancer's huge and everybody is interested in that because it affects us. It's affected everybody in some way.
I was going to say, everyone knows somebody. If you haven't been directly affected by it, you know somebody that has.
You know somebody that has. So this information is important to everybody. And I think we all have a shared interest in it. And then after like the opening paragraph, it like goes back into this, all the medical terminology. So then I thought, but it's not bad. And they don't go hog wild with it. And it really covers a lot of area in a very short amount of time. It was very informative. Like you said, it was very interesting. These two illnesses, these two diseases are clearly 21st century top priority diseases. Like they are taking a stranglehold on people's lives. And so this part is really interesting. I actually highlighted some stuff in this chapter. Very simple, very basic things that really showcase exactly what we've been talking about. If you read the chapter, if you have the book and you read everything, you can get more detailed. Just basically, the things I highlighted, I felt like summarized the entire areas covered.
I have thought for a long time that sugar, I mean, I've only been doing keto for about 2.5 years, but ever since I started keto and started learning more about, you know, sugar and carbohydrates and insulin resistance, I have really thought that sugar has something to do with cancer, is directly related to it. And a lot of that is because a PET scan, which is what they do when they're trying to detect cancer in your body, they inject glucose into your veins. And then they watch it, and the glucose and the sugar is attracted to the cancer, and it it makes it light up, basically. A PET scan is a small amount of radioactive glucose, a sugar, injected into a vein. The PET scanner rotates around the body and makes a picture of where glucose is being used in the brain. Malignant tumor cells show up brighter in the picture because they are more active and take up more glucose than normal cells do.
Now that is just a basic, simple idea. It's very easy for us to understand. They do get into a little more detail about how that works and why from a medical standpoint, but it's not so bad that you can't understand it.
Right. But just knowing that, it made logical sense to me that cancer thrives on sugar.
Right. And so this whole book, The Case Against Sugar, it's been steadily building. We're at the end of the book, and we're at this point where these are the two powerhouse, really, like I said, illnesses. It goes back many times in this second half of this chapter, I'm sure you remember, where it talks about if sugar does insulin resistance,
if there is a direct link between sugar and insulin resistance, and there's a direct link between insulin resistance and cancer, therefore sugar is related to cancer.
But there's a lot of other pieces in there. There's the metabolic syndrome, there's obesity, diabetes. They link them all together in order, the way we read about it, and the way how they have discovered the commonality. Because remember, a couple videos ago, we were talking about how they were trying to take a group of diseases and illnesses and health issues and narrow it down to a common denominator. And sugar was that common denominator. Once that was established, like Dawn just said, you follow the linkage and it goes right to cancer.
It's like connect the dots.
It really is.
I mean, it's that simple. So he says that the hypothesis is that cancer may well be caused or exacerbated by sugar. It seems very much to be a disease of Western diets and lifestyle, and there's an increase in prevalence as populations become westernized. So it also says, as for the evidence that cancer was a Western disease, this too continued to accumulate and remain a common observation throughout the 1930s. Among those who made it was Albert Schweitzer, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1952 for his missionary work. Schweitzer began working at a hospital in the equatorial lowlands of West Africa in 1930, and he later said he was astonished to encounter no cases of cancer. That's zero, none, among the thousands of native patients he saw every year. However, as the natives took to living more and more after the manner of the whites, he wrote, cancer in his patient population became ever more frequent.
One of the things that I noticed in that same general area that you were just reading about, and again, I'm really cutting it down to the bread and butter.
No bread.
Right. Good catch. This led to the conclusion that most human cancers are caused primarily by some aspect of diet and lifestyle. And you're going to hear that again because
they repeat it several times.
Because they are coming to the conclusion, and this is probably one of the most true statements we were told growing up. You are what you eat. And we are learning now that that is so true. And we are not eating the right stuff. And because of it, we have this.
And so here's just one more example that I had highlighted. In 1984, Canadian physicians published an analysis of 30 years of cancer incidence among the Inuit in the Western and Central Arctic. They could not find a single case of breast cancer in an Inuit patient before 1966. They could find only 2 cases between 1967 and 1980. Up until 1980, there were literally 2 cases of breast cancer in this population of people. Then they started to see a slow, steady increase in the cases, again, as this population of people began to eat more of a westernized diet.
They became more westernized. And here's another interesting thing. So I just told you that it was becoming more and more obvious, and they were coming to more and more conclusions that it was diet and lifestyle, basically what we eat, was the cause of all of these issues. But here's something that was interesting. They still, as far back as the 50s, they still didn't want to accept the reality about this. And they were saying things that they were more focused, I should say, on the idea that Western lifestyles and cancers were caused by the industrialization and by carcinogens in the environment. And if you think about that, we've seen stuff on TV, commercials and stuff about cancer-causing agents and stuff in the workplace, and they made a big deal about getting that stuff cleaned up, and they've talked about all different kind of things that cause cancer. And you never see a commercial or see an advertisement, for anything that says what you eat could be causing cancer, let alone sugar. causing cancer. Like, they don't even link the two together.
Yeah.
And yet the case is being built that that's exactly what the problem is.
Another example is of breast cancer in the Japanese women. It was never an issue at all for Japanese women who lived in Japan, but they said it takes only 2 generations in the United States before Japanese Americans experience the same breast cancer rate as any other ethnic group. This implies that something about the American lifestyle or diet is the cause of breast cancer, although it doesn't tell us what that something is.
Kind of piggybacking on that whole industrialization and carcinogens in the workplace and the environment type of thing, there was a guy by the name of Higginson who said in the 80s, he argued this point, that's only a small percentage of the cancer that we see, the cancer burden as he called it. He said, however, a significant percentage of cancers had to be lifestyle or diet induced. So there's, again, talking about lifestyle and diet. And he said perhaps 3 out of every 4 cases of cancer in the U.S. might be preventable with appropriate changes in diet and lifestyle. Again, diet, they argued, seemed to play the largest role. They said at least 10% of all cancers and perhaps as high as 70. That's a huge gap.
Right?
At least 10, but up to 70% were caused by something that we were eating. I mean, again, the evidence is being laid out before us, and they're coming to these conclusions because they're realizing.
Well, and they're saying there's a definite link between obesity and diabetes and your risk of cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt at all that there's a link between those things. And in 2003, the New England Journal of Medicine reported that the cancer mortality in the United States was clearly associated with obesity and overweight. The heaviest men and women, they reported, were 50 and 60% more likely, respectively, to die from cancer than the lean. 50 to 60%. You had a 50 to 60% higher chance of dying from cancer if you're overweight, obese, diabetic. That right there is proof enough. They talk about how cancer cells require insulin to propagate and that breast cancer cells are addicted. They seem to be addicted to insulin. So again, it goes back to the PET scan and how they inject the glucose and the cancer cells attract that glucose.
The more sugar you eat, the higher your insulin levels, the more likely it is to find cancer cells that are addicted, and thus, there you go. They could start the whole cancer process.
So yeah, the more insulin and the insulin-like growth factor in your circulation, the more cancer cells are driven to multiply and tumors to grow. And so then they also just talk about the way that the cancer process initiates. And it says, according to researchers, you increase the levels of insulin and blood sugar in the circulation itself. Insulin resistance would do that. Thus, whatever causes insulin resistance would be promoting the transformation of healthy cells into malignant metastatic cells by increasing insulin secretion and elevating blood sugar and telling cells to take up increasingly more glucose for fuel.
So after you read that, after you hear that, and then you look at the next bit of information, if the sugars that we consume, sucrose and HFCS, which is high fructose corn syrup, and we talked about that in another chapter, that's huge. It's cheap. It comes in liquid form. It's easy to put into beverages. And that's why all your carbonated beverages like Coke and Pepsi and all those, they use that. It's so time-saving, cost-saving, and convenient. If those 2 things specifically cause insulin resistance, then they have to be prime suspects for causing cancer, or at the very least, promoting its growth. And again, we've already laid that out. I mean, he laid it out in this chapter. The trail just points right to that.
Whatever's causing insulin resistance is increasing your likelihood of getting cancer.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
This is the domino effect or connecting the dots. If you're one of these people that are struggling with this whole idea and you are insulin resistant, you are setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up to be in a very dangerous position, because cancer, not 100%, it's not guaranteed for anybody, but you are putting yourself in a position where you could very, very likely encounter cancer in your lifetime. It's not the sun, it's not environmental stuff. I mean, again, not that stuff can't be a cause, just like smoking. We've already determined that it's likely that it's what you're eating. It's what you're putting in your body.
Like he just said with smoking cigarettes, not everyone who smokes cigarettes is going to get cancer. Not everyone who eats sugar is going to get cancer, but you increase your likelihood of it if you consume high quantities of sugar. So that was the first part of this section, was mostly about cancer. There's a little bit sprinkled in here about Alzheimer's, not quite as much.
Right.
Again, they're saying that Alzheimer's, like cancer, is associated with type 2 diabetes, and they also actually refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes now.
There's just not as much research right now on it. They're
Right.
really starting to find things out now. And when this book was written, there just wasn't as much information.
Right, and there are still a lot of questions about Alzheimer's and it being genetic and hereditary, but there's no doubt from what we read in here that eating the high quantities of sugar and insulin resistance exacerbates it. It speeds up the process. It can make it more prevalent. It doesn't necessarily mean that it causes it. You may have gotten it anyway, but I think it progresses it faster for sure. And they also talk about Alzheimer's and brain tissue, and they call it like a vascular dementia. It's where it's brought on by stroke or something like that. And that kind of made me think about your dad a little bit. Mike's dad, before his motorcycle accident, was already pre-diabetic. He was controlling it with his diet. But he did have a brain injury. And we strongly feel like that brain injury brought on those symptoms of dementia faster. He may have experienced those over time anyway, which Mike has said before he was already kind of starting to see signs of it, and I'm sure him being pre-diabetic didn't help, but we have thought that the damage to the brain has also kind of brought that process on a little bit faster.
Well, there's a couple other things here. So first of all, his mother, my grandmother, died from dementia. There is that genetic thought process there, because they are like twins. When
they look exactly alike.
They were,
too.
in every way, shape, and form, they were like twins. So I feel like they have that link. The other thing is, had my dad not had the brain injury, then the onset of the potential effects of dementia were still there. Like I said, we always felt like that might be something that he experiences as he ages. You mentioned that brain injury kind of sped everything up. Well, here's the other thing. He was pre-diabetic and he controlled it with his diet. He's still pre-diabetic, but he doesn't control it with his diet anymore. He eats a lot more garbage than he used to. He eats stuff that he never would eat before. Before his accident, he would never eat pizza, ever. Now he eats it all the time. He stopped drinking carbonated beverages altogether. Not diet, not zeros, nothing. Now he's drinking carbonated beverages again. He's drinking, the zero variety, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He never drank that stuff. He didn't eat bread at all. Never ate bread. Now he's eating sandwiches. I mean, he's not controlling anything by anything now.
Toast and stuff like that he's eating.
So now we're reading that how the sugar attracts, malignant cancer cells, and now here he is doing that. I think that process is being sped up even more. And do you think really that you can say anything? I mean, you can't really say anything.
Not at this point.
It's like, what do you do? Because he would have never done this. So the brain injury that he sustained has changed his thought process. And he now no longer is concerned about his pre-diabetic condition.
Yeah. So that's about it, guys, for this chapter and almost for the book. Like I said, we have the epilogue, which is titled How Little is Still Too Much, which is pretty interesting. We will finish that up because that's not a super long. It's only maybe like 5 or 6 pages. That's not very long. So we will finish that up on Thursday, and that'll be a wrap for Gary Taubes' book, The Case Against Sugar.
That kind of rap?
No.
Oh, I know. Don't quit your day job. I don't plan on it.
Right. We hope you all have enjoyed this. We look forward to starting another book probably in the fall, as we said before.
Yeah, take a nice break off for the summer, the warmer weather, to give everybody a chance to enjoy being outside and doing that kind of stuff. We don't necessarily want to be on camera, 7 days a week or 5 days a week, whatever it is,
on a schedule so much
during the summertime, because it's when you live in Northeast Ohio, you got to take advantage of the warm weather. So if we get it, we got to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But conversely, we don't want you guys to do the same thing. We appreciate you and everything you do, but I don't want you to spend all your time watching stuff on your phone. I mean, really, I don't want to become a part of the reason why you missed out on something.
Don't listen to him. Watch all of our videos.
Well, I want you to, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. So a lot of you,
and give him a big thumbs up.
Right.
Subscribe. Hit that bell notification.
See, look, she's all about advertising. But yeah, so we look forward to that. And this book has been a challenge. I mean, it was a lot more challenging than Dr. Berry's book. It was it's just written differently, and it was a little
we
tougher.
did a chapter a day in Dr. Berry's book. That's how much easier it was.
Right.
This was like
This was a lot
more
tougher,
in-depth.
but it was very enjoyable, very educational, and you guys made it great because your interest was there. Like you wanted to hear and see and learn. So we appreciate that.
So we'll wrap up with one more dinner on Thursday night, and we'll see you guys then.
Pizza? Pizza for dinner? I'm just kidding. Come on. We got to have a sense of humor.
Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.